Welcome back, everyone. Today, I'm going to talk about a few game changing improvements that my company is making to significantly upgrade our team's talent. Now, these changes will help us find and retain more A players, reduce turnover, improve our customer experience, and ultimately have a massive impact on our cash flow. So, this is a must listen episode for business owners. Please share it with anyone who you think may benefit from it. And so the first thing we need to understand is that every service business is in the people business. So I'm in the people business that just happens to fix cars, paint houses, take care of old people, like whatever it is. My success in running a service company is 100% determined based on my ability to hire great people and to get them to hold them accountable to follow a process. And we talk about the franchise business, right? There's this proven process that works all over the country. And your job as the owner is to get your team to follow the process. Like there is this iteration, you will find new ways of modifying and tweaking, but at its core, there's a process that must be followed. And compare this to, let's look at like a fast food business, which is a franchise, but most of them are heavy process driven, right? As long as the people make the burger or the French fry or the pizza the same way and the product tastes good, it doesn't really matter who's behind the counter doing it, right? Like they can have very high turnover and they do, but new people they can train within days and the product tastes consistently and nobody ever knows, right? But in a service-based business, one where people are the main factor, that relationship that you have, the way somebody communicates with you, the way they listen, the way they help, solve your problems, your experience and your, view of that business is 100% determined based on the people to people interaction. And so you have to understand that. And if you don't have great people, you're never going to have success. And so this leads to January of 2024 here, and we have our annual planning meeting. So all of our leadership team gets together and we sit down and we talk about like, A, what's our multi-year goal? Like what's the bigger vision that we're working towards? But then B, like what are we going to do this year? What's like one or two major things that we're going to change this year that can help us achieve, this much bigger vision that we have? And so the theme of the year that we had is that 10x is easier than 2x. So 10x is easier than 2x is this fantastic book that was written by Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan. Together, these two guys, one's a psychologist, Ben Hardy, and the other, and Dan Sullivan, is one of the most premier business coaches in the world, runs this company called Strategic Coach. He's been doing it for over 50 years. So basically what happened was, they got together and Ben Hardy has taken all these ideas that Dan has been teaching for 50 years and kind of puts the psychology around it, right? And how people think and how people make decisions and makes them really easy to understand and digestible. And so a bunch of great books. There's Who Not How. There's The Gap in the Gain. 10x is easier than 2x is kind of a culmination of a number of them. And the theme of the book is that, it's actually much easier to achieve a massive goal than it is a small one. And so that may seem counterintuitive, but like, let's talk through it. And so let's say we wanted to increase our sales by 10%, right? So I could get on our whiteboard and we could come up with 50 ideas that could increase our sales by 10%. We could sell more air filters. We could, get better on the phones. We could sell more brakes. We could increase our prices. We could do this. We could do that, right? There's like this ocean of ideas. And that ocean of ideas then dilutes our focus because every day we're thinking, all right, we're going to do this today. We're going to do that today. And you never build a strong muscle by lifting a bunch of random stuff, right? Like you build a strong muscle by lifting, doing a concentrated exercise over and over again. And so you have lots of different paths to get there. And so then you're like a surface level weed, right? That can easily be plucked. Versus if I set this goal that says, hey, I want to double in a year. I want to go from, we did $40 million in revenue. I want to go to $80 million in revenue this year in 1 year. Like selling more air filters ain't going to get us there. Selling more brakes or tires, maybe we make a dent, but it is not going to achieve our goal. Like of all the things we'd have to do, the only way we could do that is through acquisition, right? I couldn't even open new stores at that clip. I would need to acquire. And then, so you said, all right, I would need to acquire, $40 million worth of revenue, or maybe $35 million worth of revenue. If I assume I'm going to grow my internal sales, maybe by 5. So then I'd say, all right, 35 million of revenue. I have to go through acquisition. It's much easier to do a couple big acquisitions than it is, a whole bunch of small ones. And so it'd be easier for me to acquire, 3 guys doing 10 million each than it would to be 30 guys doing $1 million each. Right. And so if that was my plan, I would come up and I'd have a list of every multi-unit operator in my space and what, where they're located and what they're doing in revenue. And, my list would get down to probably 10 people. Right. And so now instead of this entire, ocean of ideas and all these little surface level weeds that can be plucked out, I only have one path, right? If I wanted to massively grow by $40 million in a year, it would be I would have to acquire these guys and I have to build a relationship with them, right? And so I do a audit to say, all right, what's my current relationship with them now, right? What does it need to be? I need to talk to them. Do they have an interest in selling? If they don't, I cross them off the list. I'm going to the next guy, right? Then once I'd figure out who I could buy an approximate price, I'd have to figure out how to raise the money, right? But the whole idea of the book is if you set this massive goal, there are less paths. In fact, there are very few, if not only 1 or 2 paths to get to that. And because there is only 1 or 2 paths, you can concentrate your entire, effort and workforce and brain power and team and everything around going it. You become this laser beam, right? Cutting through a sheet of metal. And, back to my weed analogy, right? Like surface level weeds it can easily be plucked. When you have this massive focus, your roots go very, very deep and it is hard to move you and you're hard to be swayed and you will have this lasting power. And so that was the theme of the year for us. Just this idea that let's focus on the 20% of things that give us 80% of our results, right? Let's get super focused. And so, our massive goal wasn't to double, but it's said, we want to grow by 50%. So we want to go from 40 million to 60 million, which, we have 33 locations. And we wanted to do it all through internal growth, right? So we didn't want to grow through acquisition because we've done a lot of acquisition over the last couple of years, and we have a lot of stores that we know can do a lot more money, and to be honest, is way more profitable. If I can add 20 million to my existing stores, that is way more profitable than buying $20 million of new business, because that is going to come with tons of overhead and a lot more payroll and rents and all the stuff. And so to hit $60 million, we would need our 33 locations to do $1.8 million each in revenue. And our top 20% does over $2 million, right? So to have stores do 1.8 is nothing new. We have multiple stores that do much more than that. And so that was the goal, 33 stores that are all just crushing it. And so then the paths we think about, okay, well, what does it take to get 33 stores to do $1.8 million? And the difference between the stores that do almost $3 million and the stores that do 600,000 are the leaders, right? All of our best stores have A players in them. And so, and all of our worst stores have D players who probably aren't going to make it, or C players who are 50-50 kind of thing. Like hopefully they can make it, maybe not. And then we have a bunch of Bs, right? And the Bs are the ones that, can be coached up to become A players, or, they don't listen and they kind of stay as a B, or, some of them degrade and they go down to a C. And so this idea became, okay, we need A players to run great stores, and that the easiest way is to go out and find an A player. Right? D players do not become A's. C players very rarely become A's. B's, we have a chance. So that was our plan. Our chosen path was we need to build a team of A players. And if we can do that, an A player instantly will increase the sales. They instantly have an impact on the customer service and in the culture and the environment. And just instantly a great leader can fix a store. And a bad leader in a store creates this death spiral. So what happens is, a bad leader leads to maybe they just can't sell, or they're not great on the phones, or, whatever it is. So the sales drop. And then because your sales are dropping, you have unhappy employees who aren't making as much money, which leads to turnover, which leads to unhappy customers, because every time they come in, there's new people and the process isn't consistent. And with unhappy customers and turnover and all the stuff, it becomes hard to recruit great leaders, right? Who want to come in and totally revitalize the store. It's a lot of work, and they have to completely rebuild from scratch. And so it creates this death spiral. And so our path is let's go and hire A players and have them come in, and that is the quickest and easiest solution. That is the best path versus trying to, lift these guys basically from the depths to up. It's a big challenge. And so here's our plan. So our plan: get more A players. Here are the 4 things. Number 1 is job postings. We need to write job postings that are going to attract the cream of the crop, right? Number 2 is we need to have a better, more data-driven application process. So we open up the funnel, we get more leads, but now we need a way to data-driven decisions. And then we have a better interviewing process. And finally, an onboarding is the thing we looked at. And so we have high turnover. It's over 100%. And when we look at that turnover, a lot of it is in the most recent hires, or the ones that commonly leave. It is not the A players. We never lose A players, but we lose the C's and the D's. And so this idea is like, if we can just get better at hiring A players, like we retain them. And so for every A player we hire, like we're stacking it higher and higher. And then ultimately the company is becoming a lot more stable, right? Because we're not losing those people. And so that was the plan. So let me go through it. So the first thing, job postings. And so when you go on Indeed and you look at auto mechanic or service manager or sales manager or whatever it is, like all of the postings are super generic, right? They're automotive service manager, automotive service writer, automotive shop manager. And you read the things and they're all bland, right? None of them are fun. None of them speak to the culture that the company runs. And so, we decided, hey, what if we could change the title so the title isn't position, but it's more of a call to action. And so, we're the one we have out now is the job title. So instead of auto mechanic, our title is think you're wasting your time working for your current manager who can't sell and who can't sell your work. So, something like that. And which was a nicer version of the one that I had, which was click here if your service manager is a dick. And we thought that one might get flagged. So we're going to hold off and try that one later. And so we have a bunch of ideas like that. So a hook is going to be the post title, right? Versus a specific role like automotive manager. It'll be like, love to sell brakes and tires, click here, right? And so we're taking a social media hook, like the thing you click on and expands. It's called the hook. It's like the opening line. And we're going to apply that to our job postings to see if we can have some scroll stopping titles that will open our eyes up. And then within the job title, we're writing it a lot more conversational. And it's going to talk about not here, like, here are the responsibilities in some bullet point, like super bland format. It's going to be conversational about these are the things that if you value these things, then you would do a great job working for us. Like as an auto mechanic, if you'd rather knock out 2 to 3 brake jobs a day versus on replacing some motor, like you might be a great fit. If you want to be home for dinner every night with your family and you don't want to work Sundays or evenings, you might be a great fit. Like we're talking a little bit more like that. And so those are all out now. We're starting to get applications in, TBD on, the quality and how it all goes. But, you got to change things up. If it's not working, you got to change it up and try a different approach. And so that's the first thing. The second thing we're doing, we talk about the application process, is using personality tests. And so there's a whole bunch of them out there. There's one called Culture Index that we're testing, Predictive Profile or Predictive Index. There's the Enneagram, there's DISC, and they all, do a similar thing. So we're testing all these things. Basically, we're having all of our best people take it. We're going to see which platform A shows the most consistency between our best people, and then B, which one can help provide us the most data-driven insights. And so some of these claim that we can have a perfect profile, or we say we have 3 profiles that make a great store manager, that we could take that an applicant could take a test, and then it'll show that, hey, this applicant is an 80% match to one of the 3 profiles that you are looking to hire, or hey, this applicant's like a 40% match to one of your 3. And so the idea is that we'll be able to set a threshold that if they're over 60 or 70 or whatever we determine as the minimum, then we're talking to them. But if they're not, like, we're kind of wasting our time if we truly believe that this profile is the indicator of success. And how we do that is we get all of our people to take it, right? We get our best managers, we get middle managers, we get our worst managers, and everybody take it. And hopefully what we're going to see is that there's this distinct different in their personalities. And if that's true, obviously this will be a game changer. And, I'm not inventing this thing, over the last couple of months, we've spent a bunch of time with other very successful organizations. I flew out to Utah to spend some time with the most successful franchisee of a tire franchise. And, he swears by one of these. He's been using it for years, and he has much lower turnover. He has much higher sales. His culture seems a lot stronger. And he says, listen, it's because, our people have to go through this process. And if they can't, pass these personality tests, like they're probably not going to be a good fit for the culture that we have. And so we've heard that from now 4 different people who are all having success. And so, success leaves clues, and this is the clue that we're going to follow. And so TBD on which one we choose. I will post about it later, and we'll talk about it more in detail as we figure it out. And, obviously you're welcome to use it in your business. So that gets us applications, that gets us the job postings, the application process. And then next is the interviewing process. And so, over the years, I think we've gotten lazy on, we need to hire somebody. There's this void, and they check the boxes, they have relative experience. And I think we've made hires that were convenient and were easy, but they weren't right. And so what that happens is quick turnover, right? Those people last a month, 2 months, 3 months. And it just it doesn't work. And then we're back hiring again. And we're on this hamster wheel of constantly hiring people. And it's hard. I know it's hard out there. I know it's hard to find great people, but a bad hire is worse than no hire. I'd rather have a void for a little bit longer. And yeah, we're losing some money in that meantime, but we get the right person versus, we're quick to hire the first person that can fog a mirror or whatever. And then, then we think we're set, right? But that wrong person is now in the business for, 3 months, 6 months, maybe even a year. And we're just tolerating it. And, we're stopping that. And so we're revamping the interviewing process. We're basically making it, more hoops someone has to jump through. We want them to really want this job. And so we need to sell them on the vision. We need to sell them on this is what we're doing. And then they need to turn it around and sell us on why they are a great fit. So it's like a 2 thing, right? They need to understand what they're getting involved in, but they also need to see the future, and they need to really want this job. And they have a lot of options. We have a lot of options. We want to make sure it's a great fit. And so one of the things that I started doing is now I personally talk to every assistant and store manager, before they get the official job offer. And so our hiring managers have someone they really like, they want to make the offer, they got to set up the call with me. And, to be honest, I haven't been involved in the store level hiring for multiple years. I did it for over a decade, and I was pretty good at it, right? I'm pretty good at reading people, reading their energy, reading kind of what do they see? And so I've done this a couple times now, and some immediate benefits. Number one is candidates are impressed that I'm talking to them, right? Many times they're coming from other companies, big, in our world, it's, Mavis and Firestone and Pep Boys and dealerships and, big corporate structures. And they've never talked to anybody above, their direct superiors. And so, in our business, what I tell them is, listen, we have the best of both worlds. We have the national brand with Midas that people know and trust and all those benefits. But then we also have local owners, right? This is the benefit of a franchise, is that we have local owners who care. So me and my brother and, everybody in our company, we actively, truly care about our employees. We care about our success. We care about the reputation in the community. And so, we have the best of both worlds. We have everything that Mavis and Firestone and everybody else could offer, but then we also have this added benefit of local owners. And so I'm able to impress them with that. I'm able to tell our company's story of how we grew it, family owned company for 50 plus years. We come on, we grow it from a couple locations to 30, how we're expanding into multiple franchises, how we've promoted from within multiple times, and that, we are building this company that the better they do and the more they rise within our company, the more opportunities get created. And if they are a rock star, there's no limit to what they can do. So picture that you're this applicant, you're looking at a couple different jobs, and you get on a call with me as the owner, and I'm telling you our story and telling you how, listen, if you're a top performer, you can write your own check. We have profit sharing plans. We've got this, we've got that. And so think about that. And so this is a great filter, and this inspires them. And this, when they start now, they're already on, a higher trajectory than if I didn't make that call. And the other thing it does is it puts some more pressure on our hiring managers to make sure that they are not sending me, they're not taking shortcuts and sending me subpar people. And so, I like that too, because it kind of goes both ways where, in years ago when I did this, people, we had, previous hiring managers who would bring me people, and to be honest, they weren't that good. And, my perception to our hiring manager is like, you were going to hire this guy, like the guy that's like taking the call with the owner in a white, dirty undershirt sitting on his bed, like super unprofessional. And, you want to put him in one of our best stores. Anyway, it allows me to make sure that, I am holding our hiring managers accountable to vet, and that they're basically putting their name on this person to come to me, and they better make a really good first impression, or, it doesn't look good on the other people kind of involved in the hiring process. And so anyway, I want to make sure that we staff our company with the best possible talent, because that is how we build a great company. And that is how we help more customers. We make more money, and, all the good stuff. And so it's super, super important. And then finally, we're talking about onboarding. So we've done all this work. We spent all this money and all this time, from the job postings to the culture index stuff to the interviewing process. Now we've onboarding. And so for the last number of years, our onboarding process has been, we take the person and we throw them in a store with one of our best managers, and we have some checklists and stuff for them, and they're in it, right? They're picking up the phone, they're like trying to figure out the computer system, they're bits and pieces picking up these different things. And then we learned it's like there's a ton of gaps, and that a couple of weeks in, they don't know like basic stuff that we thought was being covered. And so we decided, we are going to formalize this thing. We are going to take it to the next level. And so now what we do is we get hired, and they spend the first 3 days in a classroom. And we're about to extend this to 5 days, but the first 3 days, and our COO runs it. Our district managers run it. We also can bring in other store managers too, to kind of help, on some of the topics. And what happens is of the group of people we bring together, maybe 4 people that we hired, or 5 people, whatever, we'll do it like once a month, and we bring everybody in. And the people who are A players shine immediately, right? They're taking lots of notes. They're asking questions. They're engaged. They're retaining the information. They have those aha moments, right? And they're getting excited. And, we do role playing, right? And they're picking it up, and they really get it. And the C and the D players, while they may have, faked it through the interview process, by day 2 and day 3, they can't fake it any longer. So their true colors start to show. They're starting to get combative. Like, they don't agree with what we're doing. They have like their own way and their own thing, and this is how I used to do it, and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And then they're basically telling us that they don't want to follow our process. And we're in there telling them, listen, like, we have a playbook. It works. This is what we're going to do. Like, you're either on board running our playbook, or you're not on board. And so it's great, because at the end of it, the A players are now like, multiple weeks ahead than if they had to figure all this stuff out on their own. And the C and D players are on Indeed finding another job. Like, honestly, they don't make it through the week, and it's good for them because they can go find something that, they're going to shine in. It's good for us because now we don't waste, a bunch of time with people who just aren't going to make it. And so that's been one thing. The next thing is, we have our own internal training, like, process doc. And so I wrote this thing many, many years ago, and it's recently been updated with a lot of our new processes. So that new employee kind of gets, our internal document that says, hey, this is how we check in people. This is how we check out people. This is why we believe in financing. This is like the theory around the phone. And then this is how we answer the phones. And so, as a franchise, or, Midas provides us a bunch of stuff, but, we basically take that and then, wrap our package around it. So it's the same core process that they teach at the franchise national level, but we have our touch, our flavor, kind of our driving why this is the thing you need to do. And so, we've updated this doc, we train it, it's on a regular basis, which is great. And then finally, we're doing follow-up training. So we do this 3-day onboarding. They go into store, they can start to put to practice all the things they learn. And then now every single week we're having, a group call with other new hires to track the progress of each one of them and to help answer questions, to do more role playing, and just constantly do it. Because people learn in all different ways, and there's this thing that you got to hear something like 7 times before you get it. And so they hear it in the classroom, they hear it in the field, they hear it on these weekly calls, they hear it from other successful managers in more of a mentor setting. And so by layering it in different formats, people absorb it in different ways. And so that's been really good. And we're going to work actually to increase those frequencies from 1 a week to probably going to look 2 to 3 a week, as we can, once again, get these guys up to speed. Because a great person in a business can immediately have an impact. Like literally, we've doubled sales in a year, and all we've done was change 1 or 2 key people. And so, if you own a business, like you're sitting on a gold mine, and if it is not being tapped, like you got to figure out why. And honestly, it's most likely the manager. There's this old saying in our business, and it's the saying is, it's the manager, stupid. Like, you have all these problems and people blame macroeconomics, and they blame the marketing, they blame this and they blame that. And at the end of the day, the answer is always the same. It's the manager, stupid. And so, the opposite of that is go out and hire A players, hire great people, and they will help take your business to the next level. And so, in this episode, I've talked a lot about A players, right? And so I want to take a second here and just talk about, like, what is an A player? How do you define one? How do you spot one? How do you ask questions to determine, are they an A player or not? And so this is what you need to do. Number one is you need to identify what are your core values, right? So core values are who you are as a person. They're inside of you, right? You can't change core values. You either have them or you don't. It kind of goes back to this personality test, and like people are who they are, and like you can't change people. The goal is to get the right people in the right seat, in the right role. And so what I would recommend is, if you want to figure out what your core values are, if you don't have them defined, most people don't, is get on a whiteboard, get your team together and write a list of all of the best people in your company, the top performers. And also you can include other top people like in your industry. So maybe they don't work for you, but like of them, well. And then on the whiteboard, write down every single value that you can think of them. Hey, they're driven, they're like accountable, they're a team player. They always do the right thing. They're very responsive. Think about all these things. And then the other way you can do it, if you're having trouble with that, the other way you can do it is think about all the things that piss you off, the things that really annoy you. So if lazy people annoy you, your core value is driven, right? You want to be surrounded by driven people. If someone's, very egotistic and they're self-centered and they only care about themselves, then a core value you may have and may share with me is team player, right? And so mine are, they are accountable. Like they do the things they say they're going to do. They're driven. They I don't need to motivate them. Like they want to win every single day. They care about rankings. They're winners. That they're team players, right? They look to first help others. They don't really care about themselves, and they do excellent work. So they really care about doing excellent work in all aspects, whether it's technical work, dealing with customers and the reputation, and then kind of on the accountability, and they do the things they say they're going to do. That's excellent, right? And so I've identified mine. For each one of those, you write out like what that value means to you. Like I just mentioned, by a team player, they look first to help others, and they really don't care about themselves as much as to be a team player. And so I would then take that and put that into ChatGPT and say, write me 5 interview questions based on these 4 core values, and you kind of explain each one of them. And then ChatGPT will do a great job. It'll write a bunch of interview questions, and then you can start to use those in your process. So be like, tell me about a time when you were part of a team and it like wasn't going well, and like, what did you do? Right? It's questions like that. Tell me. It's like who, what, why, where, when type of questions, not yes or no. So anyway, you get these 4 things. I've got mine, and then you create this grid, and on this grid you put all of your people names going down. You put all of your core values going across. And so I'll have like Jimmy, Johnny, Joe, Susie down, whatever. And then across on this grid, I will have the core values. So are they driven? Are they a team player? Do they have high integrity? Are they, did they do excellent work? Whatever it looks like, whatever yours are. And then for each person, you want to grade them on a +1 if they have that value 80% or of the time or more, a 0 if they're 50-50, like, yeah, they could go either way, and then a -1 if they only show that value 20% of the time. And so you grade each one. So I could say, hey, Jimmy is a +1 on being driven. He is like a 50-50 on being a team player. Maybe he's a 0 or so, 50-50 on doing excellent work. And he's a +1 on integrity. Like I trust him, right? And so you do that for each person. And at the end of it, you score each team player. So you add them up, the plus, minuses, and zeros. So you get a person score, and the best is a +4, the worst is a -4. And then you add up the columns, which are your core values. So how many people, so if you have a team of 10, the best score you could have on being driven is a 10, right? The worst score you could have is a -10. And so you add up all of your columns. And so what this exercise does is it tells you that if a team member has a low score, so if somebody scores a -4 and you have 4 core values, you need to fire that person. Like right now, you need to go and fire that person because they don't align with any of the things that you want to do. Right. And so you can grade your people based on that. And then you grade yourself based on those columns. And so let's say team player, for example, the best score I could get is a 10. And let's say I got a 0 and because half my team was +1s and -1s or whatever. And let's say that was my lowest score. Then I could say, okay, like I am not doing a good job screening for people who are team players. Like I'm hiring all these people. Maybe they're salespeople and maybe they're really good at selling, but they care a lot about themselves too much, right? They care too much about themselves. And maybe they're very driven, which is good, but they don't want to help each other and it's cutthroat. And like, I don't want that culture. And so I then would improve my hiring process and work on my culture fit to make sure that I'm hiring people who are driven, but have very good team player. Like they want to win together. They don't just care about themselves. And so you grade your persons based on your kind of that person itself. And then you grade yourself based on how well the job you are doing, sticking to those core values. And you may find that like, man, shit, I'm doing terrible. Like I haven't thought about this at all. Right. And so anyway, this exercise is really good as you work to figure out who are those A players. So that is all I got for this episode here. I hope that you can go and do the same plan. It's never too late to sit down and work on, hey, what do I want to get done over the next 12 months? You don't have to wait till January. Come up with a big plan. Think through that concept. Buy that book, 10X is easier than 2X. Set a big goal, and you will see that there's only a few paths to get to your big goal. And then you want to boil down, like, what are the actions that you need to take in order to achieve those big goals? And for me, it all came down to hiring great people and identifying our weakness, which is in our hiring process and our onboarding process, and then working to put systems in place to fix it through better job postings, a more thorough application process and interview process and onboarding process. So that was all I got. If you got value in this episode, I would love if you could share this with anyone that you know who may benefit from it. And until next time, cheers.